America's workforce. Its strength is our nation's success. Join Ronnie Spellman on I Build America podcast as we explore innovative solutions and inspiring stories from leaders and workers shaping America. Discover actionable insights to build a motivated workforce.
I build America.
Welcome to the program. I have with me a wonderful guest, William Houston, who is the
Vice President of Job Corps Operations for Serrato Corporation.
So what is that? What do you do? That's a really fancy, big title, and I know you're quite important in the organization, but tell me about what you do.
Well, in that position, I am responsible for the overseeing education and training aspects of the contracts for the centers that we operate under the Job Corps.
Now, what are these centers, though? Because our guests are hearing you for the first time. So the program is centered on workforce development, and how do we shape the country from a quality workforce development training programs. But walk us through what your company does within that workforce development space.
Well, Job Corps has been around since 1964. It's operated by the United States Department of Labor.
Right. It's
funded through the WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act.
Okay.
These contracts across the nation, there's about 122 Job Corps centers across the nation. Mm-hmm. These contracts are they're contracted out to private companies.
Right.
And on a 5-year basis, 2 years guaranteed and 3 optional years. And with that, you know, Job Corps is providing education and training, career technical education.
To whom?
To 16 through 24-year-old at-risk youth.
I hear it's totally free.
Yeah, totally free.
Totally free.
Totally free. They have to commit.
Right.
They have to commit to the living on campus for the most part. They have to commit to the rules and regulations. Yeah. Depending on what career technical education program that they are interested in, they as in the students that sign up voluntarily.
Right.
The program can go from anywhere from 6 months up to 2 years.
Okay.
And then they get an optional year if they decide to continue their training at one of the many advanced training locations around the nation.
Now, William, tell me this. Why is the program, why is it viable? Like, what is it why would a student and young person decide to go here? Now, when I look at from a program perspective, there's so many players in the workforce space. You have the federal government trying to do and provide support, like you mentioned, through this program. You've got the states trying to figure out how to make sure we get our students trained and prepared to go to work. And you have some students going off to college. You have nonprofit organizations trying to figure out what they can do to make sure that we are competitive as a country, first of all. But that also these employers have people that are ready to go to work and that they're trained and that they can deliver a good result. But for what you do, why would a young person decide to go to one of your programs? I look at it, and I didn't know much about it as a kid. I've learned about it as an adult. It sounds like a great place to go for a young person if they need a place to really figure out what they want to accomplish.
Absolutely. There are several options out there in the country as related to workforce training programs. I would say Job Corps is the granddaddy of them.
Nice.
Again, it's been around for 60 years.
Right.
The biggest component of a Job Corps center is the residential services that we provide. The students actually can come live on campus. It's like a small college. Yeah. Room and board, you don't have to worry about it. Your parents don't have to worry about anything. 3 meals a day.
I love it.
It's all you have to do is just get up every day, follow the rules, go to training.
Right.
And along with the training, the direct career technical education training that's provided, some students come in and still have yet to earn a high school diploma or a high school equivalency, so they can earn that while they're there. And moving on down the road, Job Corps is responsible for placing its graduates for up to a year.
And that's a huge component.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know that a lot of colleges have career offices, but having a place that's really working hard to get a student place in their area of specialty is critical.
Yeah. Now, a lot of colleges also receive their funding through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act.
Okay.
And with that being said, the playing field's even. Those colleges also have to have as being an eligible training provider, they also have to have a placement
component to
aspect and component in their program.
Very cool. Now, how did you end up getting in the workforce space?
Well, it was a long story. I actually my degree is in criminal justice.
Okay.
And I started out working in the juvenile justice facilities in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
And after working there for 2 or 3 years, I saw a lot of young adults coming in and out, teenagers coming in and out,
Right.
almost every year. Recidivism.
Right.
And
So they commit an offense, they go to a facility, they get out, recommit, and then go back.
Right.
Yeah.
So on paper, these youth facilities look good, but
Right.
in actuality, they were holding tanks. They were they were jails for kids.
Right.
And I remember having a conversation with a young man, and he said, a lot of the kids are coming in and out of there because there's nothing else to do. There's no opportunities.
Right.
And on the outs, he used the term the outs. So I thought about that, and I thought about my passion and wanting to be able to be proactive.
Sure.
And I left that and went into the education arena.
Okay. At what level? Wait, so was it high school or elementary or some other kind of education, private education or?
Initially, it was K through 8.
Okay.
K through 8 was my first teaching job, sixth graders, and I did that for a couple of years. And then I went and taught on a high school level. Okay. For 1 year, and then I ended up at the Job Corps Center where I taught basic adult education,
right.
GED.
Sure.
And
so I'm going to interrupt you there for a quick moment because I find that pretty amazing. You were in the criminal justice system working, and then you decided that you needed to do something about it because these kids were coming out not ready for the workforce, not ready to figure out how to not get back into that situation.
Absolutely.
And you decided to take a stand. Let me figure out where I can go to make a difference, and that's what you did.
Absolutely. So Whitney M. Young Jr., the famous civil rights leader, is known for many quotes. Right. And one of my favorite quotes of his is "It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared."
Right.
And I think what Job Corps does is provide those opportunities. It provides the training and the opportunities for those young adults to just get a better chance at life, and success.
So in a moment, I want to come back to something. I definitely want to get, you've been in this segment for a while. I want to come back to what can we continue to do to improve these opportunities in workforce development across the country. But before that, you just mentioned the quote, and I know that you played football at the collegiate level. You're one of the top athletes coming out of high school, from what I understand, and then you went to the Ohio State
University,
right?
Yeah.
But I talk a lot about sports, and I often tell people in the business world that you don't go to a game without having prepared, right? So you didn't just wake up and go play football on Saturday at a college, right? You had a lot of training that happened on Monday through Friday to get ready for that game. And I think the same is the case in the professional business community as well. And education, to a degree, using that education to get them ready for jobs. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. I think it starts in the heart. It starts with your passion, and with anything that you focus on and believe in, you're going to have the obstacles. You're going to have the preparation. You're going to have you're gonna have to have the resilience, to make sure you're getting up and preparing for anything that you set your mind to and set your heart to. I think the playing college football provided an opportunity for me.
So tell me this real quick, because I was getting ready to go to the college football, if you don't mind. I know, having spent a lot of time with college athletes, people, again, even in college, they think, you kind of go to class sometimes and then you might go to practice a little. But it's not that way. You guys are getting up at, 4 o'clock in the morning. You're getting up early, though. You're getting some practice in. You're taking classes, and then you go to more practice in the evenings. You're traveling on weekends. It's not just an 8 to 5 kind of job, is it?
It's not. And it's not, a lot of people will say, you're lucky. You're getting a free college education.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's a lot of work behind it.
A lot of work behind it.
Yeah, there's those 5 o'clock in the morning wake ups and 6 o'clock you're in the gym or
Right.
you're running. Then you go to class.
Right.
You get out of class and then you go to practice.
Right.
And you get out of practice, and many times you have to go to study hall or something like that. But it is a full day, and it's almost like being a full-time college student and having a full-time
And
job.
having a full-time job. I totally agree with you there. But it teaches, I love hiring athletes. It teaches so much discipline.
Oh, yeah.
You have to get up and you have to get moving. Otherwise, you have one of the assistant coaches calling you, somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Or they're sending
Yeah.
someone to look for you, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to come through. And my guess is that you're trying to drive some of that in at the workforce related programs that you are responsible for.
Right. The support systems is similar. We really focus on, when those students sign up for a Job Corps program, they've already established in their heart and their mind that they want more out of life.
Right.
Now, once they arrive on the campuses, we have to remind them, some of them,
Sure.
some students come batteries included.
Right.
They'll come through the program and they're finishing 6 months or a year and be off on their way. There's some that we have to, pull along.
Sure.
We have to continue to motivate. We have to help them with their, their employability skills, their social skills,
Right.
that we call them. Job Corps calls them career success standards. A lot of those things we have to. It's built into the program.
Right.
And again, at a Job Corps center, being that they live on campus, it's different from going down to one of the American Job Centers or One Stops or whatever and signing up for a program
Right.
that doesn't provide all of those wraparound services.
Right. I would, and this just hit me as well. When I look at, let's say, the military, I know they're different activities, but the military very structured, very organized. People know where they're going when. I would suggest, and you're the athlete in college, but it's kind of similar from that organized perspective. And I think Job Corps seems to offer something similar. It gives you a home. It gives you a structure of sorts. It gives you essentially some teammates because you're all in the same boat together, trying to achieve similar goals. But correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like that environment gives people an opportunity to try to get their act together.
Absolutely. I would agree with you wholeheartedly. You're also working on building that person up holistically.
Right.
And again, like you said, I don't want to say it's a captive audience, but being that they're on campus,
Right.
you can provide that structure. Something is I've had people tell me that they didn't finish school because they just didn't. Their parents didn't wake them up.
Yeah.
It just wasn't important to get up and go to school.
I had a chance to speak with a new friend who founded and built a company that generates about $1 billion in revenue. But he mentioned that when he went to college, the first 2 years he went to a different college, and that college was very strict. You had to be in class. They took attendance in class, and then he moved to a large university in Florida. And he said that he wasn't required to go to class, so he didn't.
Yeah.
But in that kind of an operation, you're right. It gives you that structure, and it gives you the ability to get to class without having your parents to wake you up and you missing class.
Right.
If you, I was in a meeting with you earlier, and I heard you speak about having advocates while in college.
Yes.
Walk me through why that was important to you.
Going to a university size of the Ohio State University, it is very easy to get lost. And if you show up and you're lacking that discipline,
Yes.
some of those classes, you hear it, and they're true stories. Some of those classes made 100, 200 people in those classes, and they're not taking attendance.
Right.
And there were some times that, in college, you show up for the first day of class, you show up for the midterm, you show up for the final.
Right. It's true.
Being that I was an athlete, we had advocates, we had athletic advisors, we had that support system. And if it wasn't for the support system, I can think of a gentleman now, Larry Romanoff at the Ohio State University, that he stayed on us.
Nice.
He stayed on us. And there was a point that I wasn't going to make it.
Right.
And just the support that they provided, I woke up.
Right.
And I realized I'm here. They care about me. They're gonna see me through. Same thing. I think people talk about mentoring and advocates in all walks of life, which I think is very important.
Right.
The mentoring piece I think is organic. I think everyone should have a personal mentor, a professional mentor, and a career, a spiritual mentor. So again, those people are important. You need someone that has went before you, that can help you get to where you're going. Especially if they're a credible witness.
Right.
If I've been through what you've been through, I've walked your walk, because we hear a lot of that from the young kids these days.
You don't understand. Right.
You don't know me.
Right.
You haven't lived my life. Well, if you can show up with a credible witness and be able to instill in them what they did to overcome or to improve their resiliency, their readiness, and show them what tools they need to be successful. Right. You have a wonderful program.
You do. So the advocate piece, not a secret, but a secret that many people might not recognize is that in a lot of the major companies, big Fortune 500 companies around the globe, they have leadership coaches, which are advocates or they're mentors, but these are people that take CEOs and CEOs' executive teams and helps them to figure out, like you mentioned, some of the areas that are blind spots for them. So maybe they aren't a good people manager, or maybe they don't understand budgets very well, or how to manage a P&L, or how to build a strategy plan around growth or marketing. They have those leadership coaches behind the scene. And then they also have quite a few consultants, which is why all of the big consulting companies, Deloitte and PwC, they're there to help give these companies resources and tools.
Yeah.
And there's no different. I think all of us need someone to help guide us along that path. And it looks like that worked for you in college, and that's what you're trying to do through the Job Corps program.
Yes. I think people take for granted leadership. We promote people in positions, all over the world into management positions. Right. And we forget that missing piece. We may take in Job Corps, for example, we may take an academic instructor that's a pretty good teacher in the classroom and make them an academic manager or a principal, supervisor. Right. A residential advisor, and make them a residential manager, and so forth. And we forget that now that you've promoted them to this position, that's when the development really needs to happen. Yeah, that's when I like that you said the leadership coaching, and we miss that piece a lot of time in the workforce.
So I want to end with this. I'd love to get your insight on what you think. You've been in the industry for a while. You've been a teacher. You've been in the criminal side, which I didn't realize before, which gives a really special perspective. But tell me your ideas for what we can continue to do around the country, the United States, to help build and improve and expand and deliver good results in our workforce program. And why you think of that, I was speaking to a friend of mine who's an educator as well. And the friend expressed some concerns that the kids didn't seem to come to that new year prepared with certain skills, whether it's how to use Excel or Word or some of the other skills. And I finally said to the friend, I said, that's why you're there. Right? Whether they have it or not almost doesn't matter. You're there to give them what you think they need and to help them to that next level. And so I think that's certainly how we need to look at education, whether they have the tools or not, whether, the generation before thinks the kids coming behind don't have what we had, but our responsibility is to give them those set of tools.
If I had an opportunity to sit at the table when these decisions are made, I'll just bring up apprenticeships. Okay. It's already there. It's already in the recipe. Right. I think the country values apprenticeships, and the Department of Labor values apprenticeships, and there's apprenticeship initiatives out there. What I think, as a country, the employers understand their needs for a competent workforce, right? And the government understands. I think we just need to increase. I think we need to provide more opportunities, maybe tax cuts or initiatives for employers to hire more apprenticeships. Because if you take someone right now, 20 years old or even a little older, and say, hey, we're going to go put you in a training program. Well, for some of them, life has already happened. Right. I can't just stop what I'm doing and go somewhere like a Job Corps center and give up my apartment, give up my car, give up my whatever else I have going on in life without some kind of funds. So, as we know, apprenticeship provides it on-the-job training, and they can get paid while they're getting the more training. So I think we should increase. Again, if I was at that table, wherever the decisions are made, we should increase opportunities for apprenticeships, mainly giving employers more benefits to agree to an apprenticeship program within their company.
It's good feedback. I appreciate all that you do for the young people in our country and giving them a chance to succeed.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for listening to the I Build America podcast. Please subscribe, share, and comment, and be sure to join us next time for more insights and inspiring conversations on building a powerful American workforce. I Build America, building workforce success one podcast at a time.